Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Week of Christmas.
Happy Hanukkah.
Watching Christmas TV shows.
Yeah, I have
doing
to
our
watch
Christmas marathons.
Yeah, I have to watch Home Alone again this year, like every year. So it's like a running joke. Yeah, I don't want to watch it, but I have to.
Okay.
But it's fun. But no, Mike. This has been a great year for us as far as podcasting is concerned, and we have actually two special guests with us to talk about Hawkeye. We have Melissa and Veronica from the SJW Comic Book Club. Say hello, everyone.
Hello.
So yeah, do us a favor and tell our listeners, all like 4 or 5 of them, about your podcast.
Hello, 4 or 5 listeners. I'm Veronica, and my friend Melissa, obviously. We are 2/3 of the SJW Comic Book Club, a weekly book club style podcast where 3 friends, us and our friend Monte, discuss a story arc in comics from a literary and progressive point of view. That's about it.
That's actually really I'm looking at your podcast list. That's actually really good. There's so many comics that have some really interesting storylines. Like Black Panther, I think your last episode was, or one of the recent ones was the Nation Under Our Feet, or the Black Panther episode. The Black Panther comics have been amazing. I don't think people really know how good they are.
Yeah, Ta-Nehisi Coates is an amazing writer, we have found.
Yeah, he's good. And it's funny. He's good. I have issues with some of his writing, but I think his Black Panther stuff has been amazing. And it's just from like all the comics I've read since I was like 12. There's been so many different storylines that I would have loved to have like a book club style thing to do. That's a great podcast idea. Fantastic.
Yes. All right.
Way better than ours, right, Mike? Like your podcasts have like infinite amount of things you can talk about. We have actual trajectory of ending. Like at some point we're going to be like, all right, we don't have anything else to do.
Are you sure? We'll be caught up.
Is the MCU ever going to start pumping out content?
Probably not. Probably not.
That's what I tell him. Plus, we're not totally tied to the MCU. We can do other things.
Yeah, we have to watch the Lego Batman movie at some point. So I'm looking forward to that.
I'm trying to get these 2 to watch Lego Batman movie. They were not receptive.
Yeah, Jay's never seen it. He thinks it's just for kids. It's great.
It's very funny.
It's fun.
It's a good movie. Yeah.
And it has very little in common with the comics, so you'll have a lot to talk about.
Absolutely nothing to talk about. It's actually interesting. The DC stuff, DC comic movies have so little to do from the comic source material because of the way the DC universe is structured. I could talk about this all day, but it's like the mythos is completely different. Like the mythos of DC is more like sort of like how you would think of the myths from the Greek and Roman times.
Yeah.
And like the Marvel stuff is very much narrative based. It's just so much different the way they do their comic.
For sure.
So we're here to talk about the season finale of Hawkeye, or I guess the finale of Hawkeye.
Yeah,
which is called So This Is Christmas. Name of the episode. What did everybody think of it? I guess Melissa and Veronica, just kind of, this is your first episode recording with us. What have you thought of the series, the Hawkeye series, overall?
Melissa, should I go first or should you? Because I think we feel differently.
We do feel slightly differently, but you can give your opinion first.
Yes, I will give mine so that I don't contradict you. So I've actually been enjoying it a lot. I haven't been watching it in step. I literally watched the episode we're talking about yesterday, and I watched all 5 of the other episodes the day before that to do this recording. Wow. But I've been seeing people talking about it on Twitter and posting stuff from the comic run that it's largely based on, and it's been very intriguing, and I really want to read this comic run. But this is also the only Marvel MCU TV show that I've actually even watched. And yeah, okay. I've enjoyed it a lot. I think the characters, obviously it's not perfect, and there's a lot that we could tear apart like we always do on our podcast, but I found it engaging, and I was engaged by the characters, and that's about all I can ask for from a TV show. So I've been enjoying it a lot.
I probably texted a bunch of complaints to Veronica about the show because she probably thinks I don't like it. The show was fun. I did have I did say many things at the TV screen while I was watching it. Like, why did this happen? Or your mom owns a security company. Why are we not talking about that more often? Just fun things like that. But I actually really enjoyed the last episode because Yelena was in it. And she's definitely my favorite of all time.
Oh, she's everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
She's everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
If she doesn't get a show of her own in the next year, I'll be really surprised.
That'd be crime.
Yeah.
Literally.
Well, Jay, what do you think of it?
Mike, you go first.
I have to go first?
Yeah.
That's just how
this time.
So when we first started watching this series, I was super psyched to start watching it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we watched the first 3 episodes all at once, Jay. And I was kind of let down at the time. But I've gone back and I've rewatched those episodes, and I think that this is, out of all of the Disney Plus Marvel TV shows, this is the most consistent from beginning to end. And I think it may have I think it stuck the landing the best out of all of their TV shows. Like, there's nothing completely off about this last episode for me, the way there was for maybe all of theirs. Maybe Falcon and Winter Soldier gets a pass on that because I just don't remember much about the last episode, to be honest.
Well, if you rate them, and we've watched all of them so far, we haven't done a podcast on WandaVision, which we definitely are going to at some point. This one would fall for me as like a B. Like, if we had to give them grades, like it's a solid B. It's entertaining enough. And it's good,
Yeah.
but it has some flaws. And we'll go over the plot synopsis of this episode, and we can kind of pick it apart. There's definitely 2 or 3 things about this episode that just kind of annoyed me, but I don't know if it's the show's fault or if it's like just how this is like the problems that we're seeing with this episode are the problems of having a live action TV show that's like never ending. Like, with comic books, like I was talking to someone and they were complaining about how Batman never ages in the comics. And I was like, well, that's a silly thing to complain about. But like, it makes sense. He's like, if Batman never ages, but then Robin does, I was like, well, okay, we can talk about that. But they hit a certain thing, which is like, in the reason why I could read Spider-Man from 12 to 40 is because Peter Parker doesn't age. He ages in a very gradual way. And like, what happens when you have actors and actresses, or just actors, and they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't want to be Spider-Man for another 10 years. Like, I don't want to put on tights when I'm 40, you know? And like, and what do you do about that? And I think some of the logistical stuff is a problem. I also have a problem with how they did the source comic, but we can talk about that later. But let me do a synopsis, and you guys can jump in and ask questions or comments as I do a synopsis. This is how we do it. I'm just going to throw out the plots of the episode, and we can kind of pick it apart. This episode starts with what, Mike? What?
I was going to say no timer this time. All right, just I'm not going to time you.
No,
I'm
please
not going to
rush. I'm not going to rush.
So,
okay, so this episode.
Can I ask a question, actually?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So does you going through the synopsis and us asking questions take up the whole span of the podcast, and we ask whatever questions we want whatsoever while you're doing this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as I do it. Yeah.
Right.
You can throw out questions, and then if I don't cover the questions, we can do a rapid fire at the end.
Okay.
Okay, so this episode started with we have Clint, we have Kate, and we have our man Gil, who's a firefighter who, from the comics, he's actually a guy who grills on the rooftop.
Oh.
But they've kind of, he's actually really interesting. He gets killed in the comic.
I'm surprised that he's even in the comic, because they seem like cute side characters.
Dude, so many people
I was
from the
comic
are in here. Yeah, so many, they did a really good job putting people in the comics in here in different ways. So they actually did a really good job with that. So Kate found out that her mom was working with Kingpin. We finally get to see the Kingpin, which was awesome. I don't know if you guys have watched Daredevil on Netflix.
I have not, but I knew that he was.
Yeah. So it was kind of a big deal because right now, if you go watch Spider-Man No Way Home, which I highly recommend you do because it's great, but you might want to wait until after. You might want to wait till it goes to Disney Plus or whatever because of COVID right now. But it's fantastic, and they did have I don't know if it's a spoiler. It's not that big of a spoiler. Matt Murdock was in the movie, so it's confirmed. It was a spoiler.
Oh no.
He's barely in the movie, so
he's in it for
wasn't
like
much
3
spoiled.
minutes. It's not that bad. You might even forget that he's in
that's
it.
generous. Yeah.
But we do get confirmed that Daredevil's in the MCU now, which is awesome. And so having Kingpin in it as well, got people hyped.
Yeah.
But there's some issues with that. We'll talk about it. And so Clint and Kate decided to come up with a plan. I like the fact that Clint calls Kate his partner, because we finally get that locked down. So like, okay, he's going to mentor this woman. He's going to teach her how to be a superhero, which I thought was really good. And then they go about like making a bunch of trick arrows. And the episode happens really fast. We go from the beginning to them in the hotel where all the action happens really fast. So I think the pacing of it was actually really good.
All right, so this is one of the questions that I have.
Go for it,
the comic book readers. Are there any cool arrows that you saw in the episode that you can tell us more about?
The arrows?
Yeah, the arrows that they're making.
They all like I guess they all are from the comics in different ways.
There were no boomerang arrows like you were hoping.
No, there's no boomerang arrows, but we have. It's not. I don't know. That's an interesting question, Mike. From the comics that I read, there were no trick arrows that I saw that kind of popped up. So no, there's nothing in there from the comics that you would have thought, wow, this is like straight from the comics. They're just all kind of trick arrows. I was surprised by how many trick arrows they had. That was interesting.
There were a lot. They had to label them.
Yeah, their quivers never seem to run dry.
Yeah. Does it make you guys want to learn archery so you could do this out in the streets?
I did
do
archery
it out in the street.
Yeah, I did archery as a kid, and it's fun, but you gotta practice a lot, and it's a lot of what you would think it is. You shoot 6 arrows, and then you have to go get them and spend like 40 minutes finding them if it goes too far.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny because in the fight scene, if you notice, they never run out. So magically, those arrows are just replenished some kind of magical way, which is fun.
They kind of lampshaded a couple times. Like they have that big discussion in whichever episode it was about having to go get them, and then there's one moment in this episode where Clint like pulls one out of somebody's leg to shoot.
Yeah, that was good. That was that was good. But I guess if you shoot someone with an arrow, you're breaking bones and doing major muscle tissue damage, right?
Okay.
Like
that was the thing about this whole show is that like it kind of made a point a lot of the time to not be too violent, like knocking people out. But then sometimes it would just be extremely violent. Like you can say that like if you shoot someone in the arm or the leg with an arrow, they're not going to die. But I swear I saw people getting shot in the chest, getting shot in the face with arrows and guns, and lots of very violent stuff, which was more shocking because we had all this stuff where they weren't killing people.
Yeah, no, like there's a pretty basic rule for Disney Plus shows. They can't show a lot of blood. Like they can show some, but they can't show like you can't show someone getting shot and blood coming out.
Right.
But you can show.
You said that before, but then I was remembering there was one episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier where they showed a lot of blood.
Yeah, but they showed him killing someone with the shield, and then you saw blood on the shield. So yeah, it was pushing it a little bit. Yeah, but you're not going to see someone get an arrow through their chest and like and then organs coming out of the back. Like you're not going.
It's not gonna be like Squid Game level of gore or something. Like
I haven't seen that. I don't want to see it. Like
if you don't like gore, don't watch it.
No, I can handle some gore, but not on the level of the gore that they were probably doing. So the episode's actually pretty basic. And I think the best episode, and we can all chime in. The best part of this episode is when Elena shows up, which is Flint. What's it? Florence Pugh. What's it? Florence Pugh.
Florence Pugh. Yep.
Yeah, it's just her chemistry in the elevator, and then the subsequent fight scene with Kate Bishop, Haley Stanford was fantastic. I think that Florence Pugh definitely should have been more in the episodes, and I think that from a comic standpoint or just a fun standpoint, I don't know what it is about this actress, but she takes over the screen. What do you guys think?
100%.
Yeah, she is such amazing. Like I had never seen Midsummer, but I see like gifs from it all the time, and I've read about it several times, and I never realized like how magnetic of an actress she is, or an actor.
Yeah, I call them. I think I don't know if actresses like to be called actresses anymore. I was told to call them actors.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call her actor.
Yeah.
But no, she was great, and I think Black Widow in some ways was kind of flawed. But Black Widow, when she was in it, like looking back, I think she was great.
Oh yeah.
Her
And it was just so funny. Who like they were in the elevator, and we both know that at some point they're going to have to fight each other. And it was like a slow build up of them slowly starting to fight each other. But it was like two people who kind of are friends, but like they don't know how to start physically accosting each other until it gets like more and more. And then you get that cool scene where they're running, they're chasing each other to like the window. And I thought that was directorially brilliant. And I just thought it was a fun thing to watch.
Oh yeah. That
Yeah, like Yelena said, that was just a very fun fight scene.
Yeah, it was fun.
Oh yeah. And I just even loved it in the elevator when Kate's trying to push all the buttons and she fails several times. She's just yeah, Yelena's just the very best. I mean, and honestly, like how she gives a bunch of clues to Kate Bishop all the time. Like I kind of was thinking, like, why are you sending like data, like video after video that incriminates like a bunch of people? Like there's no reason to, but you believe that Yelena would do that because Yelena's awesome. Like she would just totally do that.
It kind of falls. This is a place we can talk more about the comics. So a lot of people, and this is Marvel's fault. And Marvel, if you watch the MCU movies, Marvel does a really good job generating hype through its fan base by giving their fan base hints about future projects. And they do this because they're like, hey, look at this character who's been in the comics. We might put her in a movie. We might, and then people on Reddit and other places start talking about it, which gets it hype and hype. And so right now, people are thinking that Marvel is going to collect like Yelena's character, Kate Bishop, and a bunch of other people into like a new Avengers group, which is interesting to theorize. But people have to remember in the comics, Yelena character is not like an Avenger type character, unless you guys, I might be wrong on that. But she's been in the comics, but she's not like an Avenger necessarily. She's just kind of like the character in the MCU is much more engaging and interesting than the comics ever was.
Right. So like this show, Hawkeye, is based on a specific run of comics mostly, right?
Yeah.
But of course it has all the MCU stuff rolled into it. So I also listened to you guys' Black Widow episode because we had watched Black Widow and I was interested. And you talked about how Yelena is like not this character in the comics. So like, is the whole Yelena plot thread that's in this show even vaguely in the comic that this is based on?
No.
I invite these people on and then they steal my questions from me.
Well, Mike, you got people wanting your job, man. So just step it up.
Yes, it's a coup.
Like there's so much from the episodes of Hawkeye that aren't in the comics. And actually, I just finished reading the comics. So for example, in the comics of Hawkeye does become Deaf Mike. I didn't see this until the very last two comics I read. He gets in a fight and they shoot in his ear canals.
No.
So he his ear, they bust his the comics
like intentional, or like just the gun fires right next to his ear.
It's intentional. It's really
okay.
The comics super gory, super graphic. Just to let you know, the comics not pulling your punches, and so he loses ears. He loses his hearing, and he has to get at the very last panel of the comic, he gets a hearing aid so he can hear. So there's a whole comic, and you guys should read the comic because it's really fun. There's a whole comic where he's deaf. And there's no words, but he's communicating through some sign language and just through the panel's movement. So it's actually brilliant the way the comics laid out. But so in the TV show, in the show, they make him deaf way early on, and they do that throughout. They take the coolest parts of the comic and then put them into the episode in different ways. But there's a couple of different things. Like for example, like in the Hawkeye comic, Hawkeye is not misogynist. But he has serious issues with women.
We've seen a few examples of this in our reading.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see what you guys think. But he's not like that, of course, in the TV show. But the Kate Bishop character in the comics is similar. It's actually a issue where she goes to California and has her own adventure for a while, and then comes back to New York. And I'm curious. This comic has enough material for them to make another MCU series easily. So I'm curious what they're going to do with that. But Elena is nowhere near, she's not anywhere in the comic at all. And the Elena we're seeing in MCU, like currently with Florence Pugh, is way better than anything they've ever tried to do in the comics. So it's one of those.
I'm glad they added her in because she was great.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She's fantastic. She's great when she's dealing with Kate. But when she's like being like vengeful with Clint and wanting to kill him, it's not as, I mean, it's a good scene. She really nails it, but it's more sad than anything else.
Yeah. I thought it was a really good character arc. I'm kind of sad that they didn't really get into like the psychology of what she's dealing with too much. Like they hinted at it with that scene where she snaps back and everything.
Yeah, and she says, you had so much time with her. And then Clint's like, yeah. Like it's just like, what do you do when like your sister is like dead and like Hawkeye can't even explain it to her because it's so crazy how she died in the first place, you know? And like it's just the mental issues, like the stuff that you would go through as a superhero. It must be taxing, and I think Clint definitely sums that up. He's just a normal guy, but he's done crazy things, you know, and now he's trying to mentor a young woman to be the next version of himself. It's pretty fast. So Mike and everybody could do the same thing. If you have any questions, now's the time, because the plot, I mean, we know the plot pretty much summed up pretty well, but Mike, now's your time to reaffirm yourself as the question leader.
All right, I've got one. And this has actually been a question I've had ever since watching Daredevil on Netflix. I don't think it's ever explained in that series, and it isn't explained in this. Why is Kingpin so powerful? He seems like he's just a guy.
I also had that same question.
Yeah, the Kingpin you saw in this episode of Hawkeye is not the Kingpin that we saw in Daredevil, and he's definitely not the Kingpin we saw in the comics.
He's pretty powerful in Daredevil, more than just a big guy would be.
Yeah,
but he's definitely amped up in this episode.
Yeah, he's just in the comics. Actually, he's always been really big, and he's always been a good fighter. He's actually an expert martial artist. So if you can imagine a guy who's like 400 pounds and like 6 foot, but he can like fight like Bruce Lee. That's pretty much what he's always been like. So this episode kind of sums it up pretty well. But I was actually disappointed in how they portrayed Kingpin. I mean, he's wearing a tropical shirt under his white suit. And the hat, I'm like, what do you do? What is this?
Yeah.
Like,
apparently that is straight from a comic book panel. Because I saw somebody put them side by side on Twitter.
Well, not everything that's on the cutting room floor needs to make it to the final movie. It's just weird. I don't know what you guys thought, but I was not a big fan of how they portrayed Kingpin. I thought it was.
I thought Kingpin was kind of the least interesting character.
Yes.
He was there. He kind of served a purpose, and then he didn't take that much time on screen. So I was just like, move on. Where's Yelena?
Yeah. I almost kind of wish that rather than fleshing him out more, that they had him in there less, because he's been built up for the whole show as like, they don't call him the king. They like refer to him obliquely. He's basically like he who shall not be named or whatever. And then he's just in this episode, and he's not that intimidating. Like, it meshes with what I know of Kingpin, but for the purpose of this show, I kind of wish he was like this unspeakable evil that we don't really get to see as much. Like they'd built.
Yeah, I agree, and like I think that what they had to do with this last episode is somehow show that Kate, like, put Kate through a crucible. Like, she's going to have to get in a big fight on her own and somehow get through it. And she did that with the Kingpin. I thought she was going to have to do that with Maya. I thought that was going to be a more interesting fight between those two. But I guess they have other plans for Maya. We already know they're making an Echo MCU show off of her. So I'm not sure what they're going to do, but we know that. But the Kate Bishop Kingpin fight was pretty brutal, because he beat her up pretty good, and I thought she handled it well, and she was able to say, "Look, I'm a superhero now. I beat up Kingpin."
Yeah.
But if that's the only thing,
he sends her flying across the room with a punch.
Yeah. But if that's the only thing he's going to be used for, they could have found someone else to do that. It's just interesting how they made that choice. I don't know.
Well, I don't know how many bros I could take. By the last episode, all the different tracksuit guys.
Mafias.
Like, I think it was funny, and then I was like, all right, you guys can just stop.
Mike loves those guys. Be careful. Mike loves them.
I love those guys. I want more of them. I think they could do their own Sopranos show with those guys.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been
give me more.
a good boss fight though, since they clearly were just easily defeated by the ice rink.
That's true.
So.
I love the scene where the Clint and Kate just shoot arrows at them for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was a wonderful scene.
I live for big choreographed set piece fights. So
yes,
if it just had that, I would have been happy with the show. Honestly,
the best is when they shrunk the truck and then the owl flies off with it, and Clint's like, "Well, there goes that problem." Like, it's like
this is my question: What's with that owl? Is that a reference to something? They lingered on it for so long. I was like, what is the significance of this owl?
I don't think so. It's not in the comics that I read. But I'm sure someone's listening and being like, well, actually, it's from this. I don't know. I feel bad that I don't know it.
I think it's just cute. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a Christmas owl because it's Christmas themed.
Oh, of course. Yes. I should have known.
Right.
But like, there's so many interesting choices they made for this series in general. Like, we should have our heart broken when Kate arrests her mother, and we're just not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're just like, bye, go to jail.
Well, I haven't liked her mother since the first episode, so that's why I wasn't,
I heard,
affected by it at all.
My mom even knows she was bad. This is what Melissa and I talked about. This we were texting about it. That like, I think the mom plot probably works on paper, but I'm kind of the way that it's portrayed like emotionally on the screen, it's just kind of confusing. And you don't really feel as much like, yeah, you got her, Kate, at the end. Nor do you feel heartbroken. You're just kind of like, huh.
Yeah. I don't know. How did you guys feel that we held the mom to an ethical standard that nobody else was held to for the most part? Like, they do bring up quite a few times the ethical things that Clint has done in the past. He's killed a bunch of people. This episode, Kate kills people. Like, there's no way she just severely injured some, like, people's lives are different or they're dead, like, after this fight kind of thing. You blow them up.
No.
And then she's like, but you, Mom, you just you killed one person, so you're gonna go to jail. And she doesn't even talk to her about it. And I was just like, why is like the mom issue so black and white, but Clint is like, but I really like him, and she's willing to like forgive a bunch of stuff she doesn't even know about him. I don't know.
You make some great points. So first of all, like, Clint should be in jail for all the murders he did when he was in Ronin. And second of all, yeah, they definitely killed some people with that huge fight arrow scene. But like in comic books in general, and I feel like the MCU is starting to become more guilty of this. They do have this weird moral slider where they're like, I'm a hero and this person's not. And the reason why this person is bad and I'm good is because of I just decided it, right? Like Kate, like the cops, the cops don't even try to arrest Kate. They're like, thank you, Miss Bishop. Thank you, officer. And like, no, a cop in real life be like, you're under arrest just because you're holding a bow and arrow and you're covered in blood. Like, we don't even know what you did, but you're under arrest. It's like, it's definitely true that like Clint, for example, should be wanted, but he's not. And there's a lot going on with morality that I wish they spent more time with, and of course they just don't. It's inconvenient to them, I guess.
Putting Clint's like Ronin phase to the side, I think for me, morally, Kate's mother killed Armand in cold blood.
Do we know that for sure? How did she do that? Like, we didn't
with
see
a sword.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, when she says I took care of it, like, she could have just like, to me, the mom seems like someone who would just hire a killer, versus actually get it. Not that that doesn't mean you don't kill people if you hire someone to do it.
Yeah, but like Elena's a gun for hire. She's killed lots of people.
Yeah, yeah.
So like, it's just like there needs like there needs to be more of a conversation
Florence
about that.
Pugh gets a pass for anything.
Yeah, that's true.
She just charms her
100%.
way out of everything.
Yeah. Like, what was it, Kate? What was it Kate said? Like, I hate that I like you, and she's like, I can't
It's
help
like,
it.
stop making me like you so much or something.
Yeah, that was funny.
And maybe like it wouldn't be bad if they hadn't specifically brought up multiple times, like how can you forgive the bad things he's done? And she makes a point to be like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then as soon as she learns something about her mom, she's like, oh, 100%. I'm just gonna like shut my mom out and not even talk to her about it. And I don't know. I just thought it was like they didn't put a lot of effort into the mom plot.
No.
And that's why maybe it just didn't feel
Yeah.
satisfying. Because if we had learned anything more about why her mom did why she did it, you know, like
Right. Or seen it more
Yeah,
explicitly.
Yeah.
This was another thing I said to Melissa. Like, they keep the mom thing like close to their chest for so much of the show that like Mike suspected her, and my mom actually, who I was watching it with, also suspected her of being shady. But I didn't until my mom pointed it out. And I was like, oh, well, you need to show us something that makes us switch our emotions around to, oh yeah, she the bad guy, other than just suspicion.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you look at, like, let's take, for example, the Infinity War or, like, Endgame. Like, Thanos is trying to murder half the population of the universe.
Mhm.
And so if Captain America has to, like, throw a henchman out of a plane and he dies, that's pale in comparison to what he's trying to stop. But you got Kate Bishop. Like, if the mom, Eleanor, did something like we understood was really, really bad, that would work. But this might have suffered from what Falcon and Winter Soldier suffered from. There were some rumors that Falcon and Winter Soldier's main plot was a pandemic. There was a virus spreading, and like their job was to stop the virus. But it was, and like obviously they were like, we can't really do that right now. Nobody's gonna want to watch it. And so maybe there was some editing problems that happened where they just edited things to the point where it was like a little neutered, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw some people on Twitter saying that maybe 8 episodes would be a better length for these Marvel shows to be. And it was kind of end heavy in this last episode with just like explaining the plot that had been going down all along to us, like telling and not showing.
That is something they seem to be doing over and over again, is like saving too much for the end of their series and then having to explain it all in the last episode. Yeah.
I do want to bring this up because we're kind of not running out of time, but we're getting there. The cool thing about this episode that I liked is like most times in a normal TV show, there would be some kind of romance between Clint and Kate. Fortunately, that didn't happen. And I think that, hats off to them for gender bending just enough where you can have someone be a mentor to someone else, even though they're not the same gender, but there's no romance there. I think that was smart. It worked. In the comic, it's kind of there the same way. But it's generally true that Clint is her friend now, just like he was with Natasha, but he also has a healthy marriage. Well, I guess that marriage is healthy. So, hats off to them. I really appreciate that they tried to do that.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
I adore that because men and women can be friends, especially when one of them is 22 and one of them is like 60.
I think he's 50 actually. I mean, that was like one of the things that people praised this whole Clint and his wife, like they're basically the same age, which is something you don't often see a lot. It's like everyone literally praised it for being, hey, you cast a woman who's like the same-ish age as the older man. Wow, you get a pat on the back for that. Like, so if they had thrown that away,
his wife has wrinkles. Oh my God, this is so brave.
I didn't know wrinkles existed. Oh no.
Yeah, so if they had even hinted at like them having Kate and Clint relationship, I would have walked out. No thanks.
Yeah,
it would have been bad. It would have been really, really bad. But if you read the comic, there's never a place where that feels like it's happening. But like in the comic, there's a scene where it's Natasha, the Black Widow, it's Mockingbird, his ex-wife, and then there's Spider-Woman, his current girlfriend, and then Kate, all sitting around looking at Clint. And Clint's like, "What?" and it's like each one of them take turns, like kind of going after him for something he did. And it's really interesting how at the end it kind of works out, but the TV show didn't have to do what the comic did, even though it was really interesting. This is a place where I have to apologize to Mike. Mike, I apologize. You were correct about the watch. I want everybody to give Mike a round of applause.
Yes, you were right.
Mike, you were absolutely right about the watch. Mike, would you like to praise yourself or like just talk about your victory a little bit more?
Like I said, the results speak for themselves, but I did win the Rolex award.
So if you watch the ending, one of the MacGuffins...
I was a little bit let down though, because I was hoping for more of a clear understanding of why that's her watch.
Yeah,
all I saw that it has 19 inscribed on the back of it, and the event or the shield logo.
Yeah,
right.
So the internet's kind of going crazy right now because like the 19 is the code name or the code number for a character from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the series that I did not watch because it was just too much. I don't feel like dealing with it. That's literally why I don't want to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I watched some of it, but I checked out.
But apparently that's the code name for Mockingbird, and Mockingbird in the comics is Clint's wife that was murdered, and I guess she came back to life. I'm not sure. So I mean, we've already talked about how the Laura Burton character in the MCU is based off of an Ultimate Comics book. She's not supposed to be Mockingbird, but maybe she was back in the day because she was maybe codenamed Mockingbird. It's a lot of kind of different twists and turns with that. But I think the coolest thing was that Laura used to be a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and that kind of explains a lot, which I think is helpful for us. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I've seen people talk about that, and that's awesome. I mean, in addition to her being age appropriate, having her also be a cool, competent hero person, maybe that's also awesome.
Yeah. And like it's just like, but part of me was like, well, now she has to get on spandex and she gotta go fight somebody. Like maybe, or I could be like, well, maybe she just used to do that. Now she wants to have a family and she doesn't want to do it anymore. And if it makes more sense that Clint can be separated from his family now because she knows they're protected because she's there. I don't know. It's a couple of different things. I don't know. Overall, I think the question from Mike at the beginning was where we rate this. I think Veronica and Melissa, you guys said you haven't seen many of the other series yet, right?
No.
The MCU series?
I had to borrow my sister's Disney Plus account to watch.
Oh, girl. There's a whole network of Disney Plus there's a black market of Disney Plus codes. We can hook you up somehow.
Oh, yeah. But I haven't seen pretty much anything else. So
Melissa, you saw like the real old school ones. Like Jessica Jones and stuff. But
when they were on
not
Netflix.
The modern ones.
Yeah.
The ones I would watch, if you like Hawkeye, you got to watch WandaVision.
Okay.
It is the best of them all, in my opinion.
Oh.
Second, and then next is Loki, which I think is really, really good too.
I've been meaning to watch Loki because it looked
WandaVision is when I looked at WandaVision and when I think about it, man, it just nails it so hard. But then Falcon Winter Soldier and Hawkeye, I feel like they're probably on the same level, but I think Hawkeye's probably a little better. What do you think, Mike? Does that sound about right?
Probably, yeah, I think so. They've all got their flaws. The end of Loki, they literally saved everything until the end, so the last episode's basically all exposition.
Yeah, same thing.
And then WandaVision had awesome, like the first several episodes were fantastic, but for me, like the final fight in that episode was a little bit of a letdown for me. But I think Jay actually loved it, right?
Yes, I did, but we can talk about that another time. Are there any lingering questions before we get to our last segment? Any questions?
I've got one.
Go for it, Mike.
Does Maya kill Kingpin in this show?
Yeah.
No. It happened off camera. Did it really happen?
There's no way he's dead. There's no way, right?
I don't know. In the comics, she does shoot him, but he lives and survives.
Right.
So
like,
I'm not
like Kingpin's everywhere.
Sure.
Kingpin is a huge Marvel character. There's no way he's going to be in 2 things or even 3 things and be gone from the MCU. There's no way,
well,
right?
Here's my thinking. If you're Marvel and you haven't signed his new contract yet, and it's like, just shoot, and like, okay, look, you're currently dead. We don't have to bring you back. Well, let's talk about some contract negotiations. How much do you want?
Yeah.
So we'll see. Yeah, I didn't like the way they ended that at all. But, we'll just have to see.
Yeah. Can I throw out though that almost to the degree of Florence Pugh for me, not as funny, obviously. I thought the actress who played Maya was the actor. I know this fact that they want to be called actors, and I know it, and I still say actress all the time. The actor who played Maya was also incredibly magnetic and charismatic on the screen, even without, speaking any words aloud.
Yeah, I didn't like her. I mean, yeah, I think so too. I want to see her in more of the role.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see her do other things. But we do know she's going to get her own TV show at some point. So
definitely looking forward to Echo.
Yeah, they saw something they liked when this show came out. So yeah, 100%. I mean, this show's pretty entertaining. Has lots of great actors in it. Some interesting ideas going on as far as the superhero genre. I do think some of the morality stuff could have been a little bit better, but overall, this is a good way to end the year. I think.
Oh yeah,
I feel pretty good
for sure.
Do you think there's anything next for Jack?
Oh, Jacques. I don't know if you guys
saying Jacques. That's his name in the comics, but Jack. Yeah.
This
was his big episode.
Yeah. Well, Melissa and Veronica, I don't know that you know this, but he's actually in the comics. He's the Swordsman, which is a Avenger.
Oh,
yes, I just learned that from listening to your prior episodes about this show.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't particularly care if he shows up or not.
This was like his coming out party.
Yeah, we'll see.
I could see him again in more cameo roles as comedic relief, but he doesn't really get a good character grounding.
I could see him trying to audition for the Avengers, and they're like, no, I don't think so.
Him getting booted out, and then he just kind of stands outside with his sword. He looked comical, walking around a party in a suit, and then just a giant sword, messing up his suit jacket. And I was like,
I know,
put it away,
Jack. Once again, you guys do a social justice kind of theme for your podcast. I would love to hear what you guys think about a black man that's carrying a sword down Broadway. I'm just carrying a sword. It's just, what's the problem? It's more cosmetic than anything else, officer. I don't understand why I can't walk around with it. It's funny.
Yeah, I feel like maybe he just kind of turned into a joke at the end. It was he the bad guy the whole time? No. And then they're like, oh, he's just a goofball. And you're like, oh, wait.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. He was just a weirdo. That's why he was so sus.
Yeah, that's funny. All right. I guess we're ready for, I don't know if you know, but we have a segment called News You Can Abuse. Ooh. And now we're here. Mike, I got some news you can abuse. Are you ready?
I'm on the edge of my seat, gripping it with my fingers.
Okay,
first, I'm ready.
First up, people in Norway want to see Spider-Man so bad they are leaving the country to do it. This is 100% true. I think they're going to Switzerland to go see this movie. They actually leave because Norway won't play it until next week or something. So a bunch of people left to another country to see Spider-Man, which is fascinating to me.
Good for them.
Yeah, I hope they got there okay.
Yeah.
They might. I hope they didn't super spread doing that, by the way.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. See more. This is more Spider-Man. I have a lot of Spider-Man news, which is fun. Happy Hogan, he starred in Iron Man 1, 2, 3. He starred in some Spider-Man movies. You guys know who he is? Happy Hogan. He was supposed to die in Iron Man 3.
What?
Really?
Yeah, he was supposed to die. He didn't. He asked not to be killed.
Oh,
there you go.
Well, you can just ask then.
Interesting.
Is it his? Well, his actor is the. Who is it? It's someone important.
Yes.
John Favreau, the guy that directed Iron Man 1
He directed Iron Man 1.
Yeah, so I guess he gets to decide.
Yeah, he can say, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, and he's been all the way from Iron Man to
he's still there.
Spider-Man No Way Home.
He's gained so much weight. He's a big dude. And he's unhealthy. He need to go to a doctor and figure out how to it's just when I see someone that physically big, I'm like, dude, I don't know. You're in your 50s, you're 300 plus pounds anyway. He was in a movie where he was super skinny when he first started out, and now he's so big. It's interesting,
right?
But that's just me. It's more my reflection of being bounced off him when I talk about that. Let's see. Oh yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home made a bunch of money, a whole bunch of money. Can anybody guess how much money it made?
Oh God, I don't even have a sense. 300 million.
Lots.
Do you have a Spire sense?
No, absolutely not.
$260 million in the domestic openings first day.
Oh, domestic, yeah.
Yeah.
First day. Wow.
Yeah, it beat Infinity War.
Wow.
It's like, it's a huge hit.
Well.
So yeah, you guys haven't seen it yet, though.
No.
Not gonna ruin it for you. Don't listen to our episode because it totally spoils it. So don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely don't listen to our episode.
I'll definitely probably wait till it's a stream.
Melissa, did Monte say he had seen it already?
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, he said it was amazing. Everyone on Twitter, people on Twitter have said it's their favorite MCU movie.
Yes, it's definitely my favorite. Mm-hmm.
It's somewhere in the middle for me.
Yeah. Oh, Mike, come on. Anyway, I'm not gonna get there.
I'm still trying to find out where it lands, but it's somewhere in the middle.
I'm not even going to do it. But finally, there's a link to a New York Times article with Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal.
Feige?
Yeah, Feige. Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah. They just talk about Spider-Man and other Marvel stuff, and it's a really interesting interview. If you're interested in MCU stuff, just read this interview, and it kind of gives you a hint about their thinking. And from what I read, their biggest problem is just trying to get actors to sign contracts to do these movies. So like it's not making the movies. It's like trying to get actors to actually do it. Because it can be expensive, and like maybe you don't want to be a superhero. So
for 20 years, yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, I would do it. So listen, Marvel, if you listen to this, I will play any character. I will be your Miles Morales, even though I'm 44 years old and out of shape, but I will do it.
You'd make a great Miles Morales.
I will do it. No, I would be a terrible Miles Morales. Are you kidding me? Horrible. Well, I guess that's it, guys. Unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about. Melissa, Veronica, you want to plug your podcast again for us? What's your next episode going to be about?
Yeah, so we just had our Christmas episode come out, which is about an Archie horror comic, Blossom 666. Very Christmassy. JK, it's about the Antichrist. But for you, Jay, our next episode next week is going to be another Ta-Nehisi Coates Black Panther, the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda.
Ooh, I'm interested in that. It's actually on my iPad right now.
Yes.
So I should start reading.
Yeah,
Ooh,
Monte loves character studies. So this season is 4 Black Panther stories from him. So
good. That sounds great. I will listen. I will definitely listen. That sounds awesome.
Yes.
Good. And how can people find your podcast?
Yes. So it is wherever podcasts are served. It is entitled The SJW Comic Book Club. We're also on Twitter and Instagram at SJW Comics Cast, or anyone can email us. Please email us. No one has ever emailed us at sjwcomicspodcast@gmail.com.
I will email you guys.
Ooh, you already have.
Well, Mike.
Oh yeah, that's true. Mike did. And like, hey, yeah, guys, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. You guys are awesome.
Yes, it's great time.
It was super fun.
Great.
Thanks for reaching
Please
out.
return.
Yeah.
Because I get sick of talking to Mike all the time.
Well, when you do your WandaVision, we'll totally be on for that.
Yes. We're holding you to it. We're holding you to that. Like some people make promises and they don't realize what they're doing. So
It's okay. Podcasting is all I do in my free time, so I'll be here.
That's awesome. That's it. We got it. You heard that, Mike, right?
That's
it's
right.
recorded.
They're doing
We
it.
can't back out.
Yeah.
Put it in the calendar now. Yep.
Mike, how can people find our podcast if they want to?
They definitely want to. And our podcast is everywhere you can find podcasts. And you know what you should do is help your friends find our podcast by hitting the share button right now and telling your friends about this podcast. Say, hey, Mike and Jay, they had a great couple of guests on, Melissa and Veronica from another podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It was really great. I loved hearing these new voices. I'm going to go check out their podcast. Share the podcast.
I also
That's
don't know
a great way to spread the word.
if your listeners know that you can now rate podcasts on Spotify, so they could drop you 5 stars or whatever the rating system is.
That's awesome.
Right. Yeah. Give us stars and thumbs ups and follows and subscribes and all that.
Yes. And Mike just told me today that we hit 1,000 downloads today.
That's awesome.
Yay.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Here's hoping
Moving on
for another 1,000 next year. Next year. Melissa and Veronica, thank you so much for being with us on our last podcast of the year.
Yes.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And Mike, thank you for all your hard work and being a great podcast partner, dude. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Happy holidays to everybody here and everybody listening.
Yeah.
And a happy new
All right,
year.
you guys have Happy New Year. Happy New Year. If you haven't been vaccinated or have a booster shot, get one.
Yep.
There.
Yeah, get it.
Yeah, do it.
Do it. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Talk to y'all next year.